The ocean churns violently beneath the luxury yacht as it cuts through the waves. Inside, champagne glasses clink while laughter fills the air. Mia, a young marine biologist, stands awkwardly at the edge of the party, watching the wealthy guests celebrate. She catches the eye of Carla, the billionaire's daughter who invited her aboard, when suddenly the boat lurches violently. Glasses shatter. Screams erupt. The yacht begins to tilt at an impossible angle as water rushes in from below. In the chaos, Mia locks eyes with Jackson, the mysterious security guard who's been watching her all evening. "We need to get to the surface," he shouts over the panic. But as the massive vessel begins to capsize, a horrifying realization dawns on everyone trapped inside the sinking hull. What if there is no way up? Welcome back to Cinematic Breakdown. Today, we are breaking down a story about survival, sacrifice, and the terrifying reality of being trapped in a sinking yacht with no escape route. But before we dive into this thrill ride, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. It helps us bring more amazing stories to you. Now let's get into it. Our story begins on a sun-drenched morning at a prestigious marine research facility in the Bahamas. Mia Bennett, a brilliant but socially awkward marine biologist, is carefully examining coral samples when her boss interrupts her work. "The Harrington Foundation called," he says, barely containing his excitement. "They want you on their yacht tomorrow to discuss funding your research." Mia's face falls. The last thing she wants is to schmooze with billionaires, but her groundbreaking work on coral reef restoration desperately needs financial backing. The next day, Mia reluctantly boards the Leviathan, an enormous luxury superyacht owned by business tycoon Richard Harrington. As she steps onto the gleaming deck, she's immediately overwhelmed by the opulence. Waiters in crisp, white uniforms serve champagne to guests in designer swimwear. Mia, in her simple sundress and carrying a worn backpack with her research materials, feels painfully out of place. A young woman with a dazzling smile approaches. "You must be Dr. Bennett. I am Carla Harrington." Richard's daughter extends her hand. "I read your paper on accelerated coral growth. It's why I convinced my father to consider funding your work." Mia is surprised. Carla actually seems to understand her research. As they talk, Mia notices a tall, muscular man watching them from across the deck. "That's Jackson," Carla explains, following Mia's gaze. "Head of security. Dad's paranoid about pirates, so we have a whole team on board." As the yacht sets sail, Mia is introduced to the other guests. There's Richard Harrington himself, a commanding presence who barely acknowledges her. His much younger wife, Vivian, who eyes Mia with thinly veiled suspicion. A group of Richard's business associates, including the smarmy Marcus Devlin, who keeps finding excuses to touch Mia's arm. And several social media influencers invited to document the trip, led by the famous but insufferable Kylie Monroe, who has over 20 million followers. Below deck, we meet the crew. Captain Reynolds, a veteran sailor with a perpetual scowl. Chief Engineer Torres, who seems constantly worried about something, and various staff members who cater to the wealthy passengers' every whim. Among them is Eliza, a kind-hearted server who befriends Mia, offering her a sympathetic ear amid the overwhelming social pressure. That evening, a lavish dinner is held on the main deck. Richard finally addresses Mia directly, asking pointed questions about her research's commercial applications. It becomes clear he's less interested in saving coral reefs than in patenting and profiting from her methods. When Mia tries to explain the importance of keeping her work accessible to all coastal communities, Richard loses interest and turns his attention elsewhere. After dinner, Carla finds Mia at the railing, staring out at the moonlit ocean. "Sorry about my father," she says. "He sees dollar signs in everything." They share a moment of connection before Carla is called away by her friends. Left alone, Mia notices Jackson, the security guard, watching her again. When their eyes meet, he doesn't look away. There's something intense about his gaze that makes Mia both uncomfortable and intrigued. Little did anyone know that beneath the yacht's pristine exterior, trouble was brewing. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Torres notices an unusual reading on one of his monitors. He calls Captain Reynolds, who dismisses his concerns. Just keep an eye on it, the captain orders, unwilling to disrupt the party for what might be nothing. Torres reluctantly agrees, but can't shake the feeling that something isn't right. The next morning, Mia is scheduled to present her research to Richard and his business partners. As she prepares in her cabin, there's a knock at her door. It's Jackson. Mr. Harrington sent me to escort you to the meeting room, he explains. As they walk through the yacht's labyrinthine corridors, Mia asks why he's been watching her. It's my job to watch everyone, he replies cryptically. Before she can press further, they arrive at the meeting room. Mia's presentation goes well until Marcus Devlin starts questioning her methods, clearly trying to undermine her. To her surprise, Jackson, standing guard by the door, interjects with a question that helps clarify her point. Richard shoots him a warning look, and Jackson falls silent. After the meeting, Richard tells Mia he'll consider her proposal, but makes no commitments. What will happen when the forces of nature collide with human ambition? And who among these strangers will reveal their true character when disaster strikes? That afternoon, the yacht anchors near a pristine reef for the guests to enjoy swimming and snorkeling. Mia is in her element, pointing out different coral species to an actually interested Carla. Below deck, however, Torres is growing increasingly concerned about the strange readings from the ballast system. He finally convinces Captain Reynolds to take a look. Together, they discover a serious malfunction that could compromise the yacht's stability. The captain immediately orders the anchor raised. They need to return to port for repairs. But it's too late. As the yacht begins to move, there's a catastrophic failure in the ballast system. Water rushes in, and a massive vessel begins to list dramatically. On the deck, chaos erupts. Guests scream as furniture slides across the tilting floor. Mia loses sight of Carla in the panic. The yacht continues to roll, throwing people into the water. Mia herself is flung against a railing, nearly going overboard before strong hands grab her. It's Jackson, pulling her back to safety. "We need to get inside," he shouts over the screaming and the groaning of metal. The yacht's capsizing. Mia doesn't understand. Shouldn't they be trying to get off the yacht? But Jackson is already pulling her toward a door. "Trust me," he says, "it's your only chance." With the deck now at a nearly 45-degree angle, Mia has no choice but to follow him inside. What follows is a nightmare of disorientation as the yacht completely capsizes. Mia, Jackson, and others who made it inside find themselves in a world turned upside down. The ceiling is now the floor, light fixtures have become dangerous obstacles, and water is seeping in from multiple points. In the darkness and confusion, they can hear screams and crying. As the initial shock subsides, they take stock of who made it inside. Mia and Jackson, Carla and her father Richard, Vivian, Marcus, Kylie the influencer, Eliza the server, and a few others including Torres the engineer. Captain Reynolds is nowhere to be seen, presumably still on the bridge when the yacht capsized. Torres explains their dire situation. They're trapped inside an upside-down yacht that is slowly sinking. The hull is still partially above water, creating air pockets, but it won't last long. They need to find a way out before the yacht sinks completely or the air runs out. There has to be a way up, Mia insists, looking at the floor, which was once the ceiling above them. Jackson takes charge, organizing the survivors. "We need to move to the highest point of the yacht," he explains. "That's our best chance of finding an air pocket that will last until rescue comes." Richard immediately challenges Jackson's authority. "I'm not taking orders from my employee," he sneers. "We should stay put and wait for rescue." The group is divided, but when water starts rising more rapidly around their feet, even Richard reluctantly agrees to follow Jackson's lead. Their journey through the inverted yacht is harrowing. Once familiar corridors are now alien and treacherous. They must climb over upside-down furniture, navigate through darkened passages where the emergency lights have failed, and constantly battle the rising water. The physical challenges are matched by the psychological strain as panic threatens to overwhelm them. Tensions rise between the survivors. Richard blames Torres for the disaster, while Marcus suggests the engineer might have sabotaged the yacht. Kylie is in hysterics, more concerned about losing her phone than surviving. Vivian reveals a previously hidden strength, helping Eliza when she injures her leg on a broken piece of furniture. As they make their way through the yacht, Mia observes Jackson closely. His knowledge of the vessel seems too detailed for an ordinary security guard. When she confronts him during a brief moment alone, he admits the truth. He's not just security. He's an undercover insurance investigator. The company that insured the yacht received a tip that Richard was planning to deliberately sink it for the insurance money. I don't think this was an accident, Jackson tells her, but I don't think Richard planned it either. Something else is going on. The group reaches what was once the yacht's atrium, now a cavernous upside-down space with multiple levels visible above them. Water is pooling at what is now the ceiling, and they can see it's rising steadily. Jackson points upward to what was originally the bottom of the yacht. We need to get up there, he says. That's where the air will last longest. But how will they ascend through this inverted world, with danger lurking at every turn and time quickly running out? The climb through the atrium is treacherous. They must use overturned furniture, decorative elements, and whatever they can find to create a makeshift path upward. During the ascent, one of Richard's business associates loses his grip and falls, disappearing into the dark water below. The accident sobers everyone, making the reality of their situation impossible to deny. As they continue climbing, Mia notices something strange about Torres. The engineer keeps checking his watch and appears increasingly agitated. When she mentions this to Jackson, he agrees it's suspicious. Keep an eye on him, he whispers. Don't let him out of your sight. They finally reach what was originally the bottom level of the yacht, now the highest point of their upside-down world. The air is fresher here, but the space is smaller, forcing the survivors into uncomfortable proximity. Richard immediately tries to assert control, demanding that Jackson explain his rescue plan. The yacht's emergency locator beacon should have activated automatically when we capsized, Jackson explains. Rescue teams will be looking for us. We just need to survive until they arrive. And how long will that take? Vivian asks, her composure finally cracking. Depends on how far we drifted, Jackson admits. Could be hours. Could be days. This news sends a wave of despair through the group. Kylie breaks down completely, while Marcus begins accusing Torres again, more aggressively this time. This is your fault. You did this. He lunges at the engineer, and Jackson has to physically restrain him. In the chaos, Mia notices Carla staring at her father with an odd expression. When she approaches the young woman, Carla whispers, I need to tell you something. About my father. About this yacht. Before she can continue, there's a tremendous groaning sound from the hull. Everyone freezes. What was that? Eliza asks, her voice trembling. Pressure, Torres explains grimly. The deeper we sink, the more pressure on the hull. If we go too deep, he doesn't need to finish the thought. Jackson organizes the survivors into search parties to look for supplies and possible escape routes. Mia goes with Carla, hoping to hear what she was about to reveal. As they search through upside-down cabins, Carla explains that her father has been acting strangely for months. He's been making secret phone calls, meeting with people he won't introduce to me, and he insisted on bringing all his business partners on this trip, which he's never done before. You think he planned this? Mia asks, horrified. I don't know, Carla admits, but I found something in his office before we left. She pulls a folded paper from her pocket. Insurance documents showing the yacht is insured for 3 times its actual value. My father's company is in trouble. He's on the verge of bankruptcy. The revelation casts a sinister shadow over their predicament. If Richard deliberately sank the yacht, he's responsible for endangering all their lives. But before they can discuss it further, they hear a scream from nearby. They rush to find Eliza standing over Torres's body. The engineer is dead, a heavy object having crushed his skull. I just found him like this, Eliza insists, backing away from the body. It wasn't me. The death changes everything. This is no longer just a fight for survival against the elements. There's a killer among them. But who would murder the one person who might have the technical knowledge to help them escape? As suspicion and fear threaten to tear the group apart, what dark secrets will be revealed in their desperate struggle to find a way up? Jackson examines Torres's body while the others watch nervously. This wasn't an accident, he confirms. Someone killed him. All eyes turn to Richard, who vehemently denies any involvement. Why would I kill the one person who could potentially save us? He demands. Mia notices something clutched in Torres's hand, a small electronic device. She carefully retrieves it while the others are arguing. It's a specialized timer, the kind used for remote detonation. The implications are chilling. Was Torres responsible for the yacht sinking? And if so, why? Before she can share her discovery, water begins pouring in from a new breach in the hull. They're forced to retreat higher, into an even smaller space. The air is getting thinner, and tensions are at a breaking point. In the cramped confines, accusations fly. Richard accuses Jackson of being the killer, revealing that he knows Jackson isn't really his employee, but an investigator. Marcus suggests Mia might be involved, pointing out her convenient discovery of Torres's body. Amid the chaos, Mia pulls Jackson aside and shows him the timer. Torres might have sabotaged the yacht, she whispers. But why would he stay on board if he planned to sink it? Maybe he didn't plan to sink it, Jackson suggests. Maybe he was just supposed to damage it enough to justify an insurance claim. But something went wrong. Their conversation is interrupted by a new sound, a rhythmic thumping against the hull. Is that rescue? Carla asks hopefully. Or it could be debris hitting us as we sink deeper, Jackson cautions. They listen intently as the sound continues, then stops. Moments later, they hear it again from a different direction. That's not random, Mia realizes. That's deliberate. Someone's out there. Hope surges through the group. Jackson locates a wrench and begins tapping back, using an old maritime distress pattern. There's a pause, then an answering tap. They hear us. Eliza cries, but their elation is short-lived. The water is rising faster now, and they're running out of airspace. Whoever is outside might not reach them in time. Jackson makes a difficult decision. We need to try to get out ourselves, he announces. Meet them halfway. That's suicide, Richard objects. We should stay here where it's safe. Nowhere is safe, Jackson counters. This yacht is going down, and we're going with it unless we find a way out. The group splits. Richard, Vivian, Marcus, and a few others choose to stay put, believing rescue is imminent. Mia, Jackson, Carla, Eliza, and Kylie decide to search for an escape route. As they prepare to leave, Mia notices Richard whispering something to Marcus, who nods grimly. She doesn't trust either of them, but there's no time to worry about it now. Their search takes them through increasingly flooded sections of the yacht. They're forced to swim through submerged corridors, holding their breath and fighting panic as they navigate the dark waters. During one such passage, Kylie becomes disoriented and nearly drowns before Jackson pulls her safety. They eventually reach the yacht's galley, now an upside-down maze of hanging appliances and floating debris. As they catch their breath, Mia notices something strange, a collection of empty gas canisters hidden behind what was once a pantry door. These aren't cooking gas, she realizes. These are oxygen tanks. Why would oxygen tanks be hidden in the kitchen? Eliza wonders. The answer comes to them all simultaneously. Someone had planned for the yacht to sink and had prepared supplies to survive afterward. But who? Their speculation is cut short when they hear a muffled explosion from the direction they came. Water rushes toward them with terrifying speed. Move! Jackson shouts, pushing them toward the only exit not yet flooded. They barely make it through before the galley is completely submerged. Gasping for breath in a small pocket of air, they try to process what just happened. That wasn't the hull giving way, Jackson says grimly. That was deliberate. Someone just blew a hole in the yacht. Richard, Carla whispers, her face pale with shock. He's trying to sink us faster. He doesn't want anyone to survive to tell what really happened. The betrayal cuts deep, especially for Carla. Her own father is willing to kill her to protect himself. Mia puts an arm around the young woman's shoulders, offering what comfort she can in this nightmare. We need to keep moving, Jackson urges. That explosion will have attracted attention from whoever's outside. We need to get to the hull and signal them. They continue their desperate journey through the dying yacht. The air pockets are smaller now, forcing them to swim underwater for longer stretches. During one such swim, Kylie panics and has to be physically dragged through by Jackson. When they emerge into another air pocket, she's hysterical. "I can't do this anymore. We're all going to die down here. Pull yourself together," Eliza snaps, surprising everyone with her fierceness. "We don't have time for this." Kylie stares at her, then laughs bitterly. The server giving orders to the influencer. "What a world. In here, we're just people trying to survive," Mia points out. Titles don't matter anymore. They press on, but the yacht is deteriorating rapidly. Metal groans under the increasing pressure, and new leaks appear constantly. They're running out of time. Finally, they reach what was once the yacht's hull, but is now the ceiling of their upside-down world. The tapping sound is clearer here, definitely someone outside trying to reach them. Jackson finds a fire axe and begins striking the hull in the same rhythm, signaling their location. The response is immediate, louder, more urgent tapping. "They know we're here," Carla exclaims. But their relief is short-lived. From behind them comes the sound of splashing. They turn to see Marcus emerging from the water, a spear gun in his hands. "Nobody's getting out of here," he announces coldly. "Marcus, what are you doing?" Mia asks, trying to keep her voice calm despite her racing heart. "Following orders," he replies. "Richard paid me well to make sure there are no survivors. No weaknesses. Your boss is probably already dead," Jackson points out. That explosion would have flooded the area where he was waiting. A flicker of doubt crosses Marcus's face, but he steels himself. "Doesn't matter. I have my instructions." Before he can fire the spear gun, Eliza lunges at him. In the struggle, the weapon discharges, the spear embedding itself in the hull above them. Water begins spraying through the new hole, rapidly filling their air pocket. What will happen when the rescuers break through? And who among these desperate survivors will live to see the surface again? The hull breach accelerates their already dire situation. Water pours in, and their precious air pocket shrinks by the second. In the chaos, Marcus tries to escape, but Jackson tackles him. The two men struggle underwater while Mia, Carla, Eliza, and Kylie press themselves against the hull, desperately trying to stay in the diminishing airspace. Jackson emerges alone, gasping for breath. "Marcus," Mia asks. Jackson shakes his head grimly. He didn't make it. The tapping from outside grows more frantic. They can now hear the sound of drilling, rescuers trying to cut through the hull. But the water is rising too quickly. By the time the rescuers break through, this section will be completely flooded. "We need to buy time," Jackson says, looking around frantically for anything that might help. Mia's scientific mind races. The oxygen tanks, she realizes. If we can get back to the galley and retrieve them. "Too far," Jackson interrupts. "We'd never make it there and back before this space floods." Eliza suddenly removes her server's jacket and begins tearing it into strips. "What are you doing?" Kylie asks. "Making a seal," Eliza explains, stuffing the fabric around the spear hole to slow the water flow. It helps, but only marginally. The water continues to rise. Outside, they can hear voices now, muffled but recognizable as human speech. The rescuers are close, but not close enough. The water reaches their chins, forcing them to tilt their heads back to breathe. "We need to take turns," Jackson says. One person breathes while the others hold their breath underwater. We rotate. It's their only chance. They begin the desperate rotation, each taking a quick breath before submerging to allow someone else access to the dwindling air pocket. The physical and psychological strain is immense. Kylie begins to falter, unable to hold her breath long enough. Eliza helps her, sacrificing some of her own airtime. Through it all, the drilling continues. They can see a small circle of the hull beginning to glow red as the rescuers' tools cut through. But it's a race against time that they're losing. The air pocket is now barely large enough for one person's face. In this moment of extreme crisis, true characters are revealed. Carla, who has been quietly terrified throughout their ordeal, finds unexpected strength. "My father caused this," she says during her brief moment at the air pocket. "I won't let his selfishness kill us all." Before anyone can stop her, she takes a deep breath and swims away. Carla. Mia tries to follow, but Jackson holds her back. She's going for the oxygen tanks, he realizes. She's trying to save us. The remaining four continue their rotation, but it's becoming impossible to maintain. The air is foul now, more carbon dioxide than oxygen. Kylie loses consciousness and begins to sink. Eliza dives after her, struggling to keep the influencer's face in the tiny airspace. The hull above them suddenly sparks brightly, the rescuer's cutting tool breaking through. A small hole appears, no bigger than a coin. It's not large enough to escape through, but fresh air bubbles in, giving them precious seconds of relief. Jackson positions himself directly under the hole, creating a human platform for the women to stand on and reach the air. The selfless act costs him his own access to oxygen. Mia can see him struggling, his movements becoming sluggish as his lungs scream for air. Just as it seems all hope is lost, there's a disturbance in the water. Carla returns, dragging an oxygen tank. With the last of her strength, she pushes it toward them before her eyes close, and she drifts away. Mia grabs the tank and fumbles with the valve, her fingers numb and clumsy. Finally, it opens, releasing a stream of life-giving bubbles. She presses the tank's outlet to Jackson's mouth first, then to Kylie's, then Eliza's, before taking a breath herself. The oxygen revives them momentarily, but the tank is small. It won't last long. Above them, the hole in the hull grows larger as the rescuers cut a circle big enough for a person to fit through. Water rushes upward through the opening, creating a powerful current. When the cut is complete, the section of hull falls away, and hands reach down into the yacht. The survivors are pulled up one by one. First Kylie, then Eliza. As Mia is being lifted, she looks back for Jackson, but he's no longer visible in the churning water. "Jackson!" she screams, fighting against the rescuers. He's still down there. The rescue divers plunge back into the flooded yacht, searching for Jackson and Carla. Mia is brought to the surface, where she emerges into blinding daylight. After the darkness of the yacht, the sun is painfully bright. She's helped onto a rescue boat, where Eliza and Kylie are already wrapped in blankets, looking shell-shocked. Minutes pass like hours as Mia watches the water, praying for more survivors to emerge. Finally, the divers resurface, pulling an unconscious Jackson with them. They immediately begin CPR as he's brought aboard. Mia holds her breath, watching the desperate attempt to revive him. After what seems like an eternity, Jackson coughs, expelling water from his lungs. His eyes flutter open, finding Mia's face among the rescuers. A weak smile crosses his lips before he's whisked away for medical attention. "Carla," Mia asks one of the divers. The man shakes his head solemnly. "We found her, but she was gone. I'm sorry." Grief washes over Mia. Carla, who had everything to live for, sacrificed herself to save people she barely knew. The ultimate redemption for her father's sins. As the rescue boat speeds toward the mainland, Mia learns the full story from the rescue team. The yacht's emergency beacon had activated when it capsized, but they were far from shipping lanes. It took hours for the signal to be detected and rescue teams to be dispatched. By the time they arrived, the yacht was mostly submerged, with only a small portion of the hull still above water. "We almost gave up," one rescuer admits. "Then we heard tapping from inside. We couldn't believe anyone could still be alive in there." On shore, the survivors are taken to a hospital for treatment. News crews swarm the area, eager for details about the disaster. The story of the capsized luxury yacht and the billionaire owner presumed dead, along with most of his guests and crew, is international news. In her hospital room, Mia is visited by investigators who want to know exactly what happened. She tells them everything: Torres's suspicious behavior, the timer she found in his hand, Richard's insurance fraud scheme, the hidden oxygen tanks, Marcus's confession, and Carla's sacrifice. "So Torres was working for Richard?" one investigator asks. "I don't think so," Mia replies. I think he was working for someone else. Someone who wanted to make sure Richard's plan failed catastrophically. The investigation reveals a complex web of betrayal. Richard had indeed planned to sink the yacht for insurance money, but with a controlled, partial flooding that would allow everyone to escape safely in lifeboats. What he didn't know was that his business partner, Marcus, had made a separate deal with Richard's rivals to ensure the yacht sank completely, with no survivors to tell the tale. Torres, it turns out, was caught in the middle, blackmailed by Marcus into placing explosives in the ballast system. The engineer had tried to minimize the damage, hoping the yacht would just list enough to justify an insurance claim without endangering lives. But Marcus had other plans, triggering the explosives prematurely and causing the catastrophic capsizing. Days later, Mia sits on the beach, watching the ocean that nearly claimed her life. She hears footsteps in the sand and turns to see Jackson approaching, still moving gingerly from his injuries. The investigators told me everything, he says, sitting beside her. Richard's body was found in the yacht. He died in the explosion Marcus triggered, killed by his own greed, Mia observes sadly. And Carla paid the price for her father's sins. She saved us all, Jackson reminds her. That's how she should be remembered. They sit in silence for a moment, watching the waves. The same ocean that nearly killed them now looks peaceful, even beautiful. Life's strange contradictions. What happens now? Mia asks finally. The insurance company is establishing a foundation in Carla's name, Jackson tells her, to fund marine conservation efforts. They want you to run it. Mia is stunned. Me? But my research will be fully funded, Jackson finishes for her. Carla would have wanted that. The offer represents everything Mia had hoped for when she first boarded the yacht. Financial support for her work saving coral reefs. But the cost has been unimaginably high. I'll do it, she decides. For Carla, as the sun sets over the ocean, Mia reflects on how quickly life can change. How a luxury yacht can become a death trap. How strangers can become saviors. How the darkest moments can reveal the brightest courage. She had boarded the yacht looking for a way to save the ocean. Instead, she found herself fighting for a way up from its depths, discovering along the way that the human spirit, like water, will always find its path to the surface. What would you do if you found yourself trapped in a sinking vessel with no apparent escape? Would you surrender to despair or fight until your last breath? The ocean's surface may seem unreachable from the depths, but sometimes the only way to survive is to keep swimming, even when there seems to be no way up. If you enjoyed this breakdown of this intense survival thriller, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more cinematic storytelling. Share in the comments which character's actions resonated with you the most. Was it Carla's ultimate sacrifice, Jackson's unwavering leadership, or perhaps Mia's scientific problem solving? Your engagement helps our channel grow and allows us to bring more of these thrilling stories to life. Until next time, remember that even in the darkest depths, there's always hope for those brave enough to seek it.